Hello there. It's the 19th of February. It's Friday, and I'm here with Jonah. I was just saying that he's had a busy day, really. He's quite tired, and he probably wants to go and lie on the floor. Main reason being is that here in the office, we've been having some new telephones installed in all of the rooms. So we've had some strangers here. Phone technicians. So Jonah has been doing a lot of barking. He's kind of all barked out, I'm afraid, really. He's exerted a lot of energy chasing guys up and down the hallway here. So I know some people think that they never hear Jonah bark, and he does bark just occasionally, right? Just occasionally. But he's kind of exhausted from all the barking that he's done today. So I'm going to put him down now so I can actually talk to you properly, which you're kind of glad of, right, Jonah? By the way, he was groomed yesterday, so he's looking especially cute right now, I think. Okay, so we're in Lent. So Lent has started, and I said that I'd be talking to you in the coming weeks more and more about Lent, and I am, and I will. So when I think about Lent right now, I think of that song, that we seem to always sing around this time, is "Come Back to Me," with all your heart. Don't let fear keep us apart. Trees do bend, though straight and tall, so must we to others call, I think. That's how the lyrics go, but it just comes to me. It's come back to me, and that kind of theme, I think, is kind of what I want to touch on really today, about coming back, coming back and coming home. There's different ways of saying what Lent is all about, fasting, penance, and almsgiving, and we'll touch on all of those points in the weeks ahead. But just touching on the theme of coming home, come back to me. Jesus wants us to come to Him always, and we take this special time of Lent, these 6 weeks, to recognize, I suppose, most of all, that we're not maybe where we think we are. We might think that oh, we're very close to Jesus and everything is fine, but human beings, being what we are, we wander. Our mind wanders, our heart wanders, and we tend to wander away from God if we're not careful, if we're not vigilant. So that song, "Come Back to Me with All Your Heart," is really kind of like an anthem, if you like, for this time as we journey throughout Lent. So I just wanted to touch on that, really today. And there's the way most of us traditionally come back to Jesus during this time is through the sacrament of reconciliation, or more commonly known as confession. And so I'm going to be talking to you today about confession and some of the obstacles we have which keep us from going to confession. Just a few really. There are many of them, but I just want to touch on a few of them just to give you my opinion. I'm not here to teach you the catechism this afternoon. I'm sure you all know it. But just based really on what the Church understands about the sacrament of reconciliation and my own lived experience as a priest and as a human being, the value of it, just to sort of talk on about confession really in that way. In the context of us, coming back to Jesus, recognizing that we have wandered. We have wandered. And, I suppose that a good context for all of that is always the Bible. If you ever really want to know where you are in terms of your relationship with God, just go to the Gospels, really, and any Gospel story to be able to sort of say, well, where am I in that? Who am I in that? Am I just an onlooker? Or am I the person being healed? Or am I the person casting stones? Or am I one of the Pharisees? Or where am I in all of this? Or do I think I'm Jesus myself? Just an exercise to give you an orientation of where are you spiritually. It's Lent is a great time for renewal, and so we need to start with, well, where am I in all of this? Okay, and I just want to make a brief recommendation of a book, which you may have come across before, which you may not have come across before, but it was recommended to me many years ago, and I've used it ever since, and I dip back into it from time to time. And it's based on the prodigal son. So it's reflections on the prodigal son, the parable of the prodigal son, and you can use it. You can use the very parable itself for your own reflection. But this book is by Henry Nouwen, and it's called The Return of the Prodigal Son by Henry Nouwen, and its subtitle is A Story of Homecoming. Now, what it is it's a series of reflections based on a painting by Rembrandt of the Prodigal Son, a big canvas, really. And you can see that on the cover of the book there, of how the painting is. And Henry Nouwen reflects on the parable and the reality of what's going on based on the painting that he's looking at. So he's looking at like how the father is holding the son, the colours, the brother who's in the background and what's being said on his face. Fascinating study, not just of a painting, but study of a soul, our soul. And I would highly recommend, if you're looking for a bit of spiritual reading this year, to get hold of Henry Nouwen's The Return of the Prodigal Son. I'm holding you this printed copy of the cover because my copy is on Kindle, so it's available electronically, and so you can do whatever is more convenient for you. But you can get this on Amazon and all other kind of ways. But there might even be a copy kicking around here, and if I do, I'll leave it in the church for somebody. But anyway, that's what I just to give you a kind of sense of what direction the traffic is moving in during Lent. The direction is toward Jesus, It's the coming home story of each one of us, all right? So, and as I said to you earlier, the way that we as Catholics most intentionally come home to Jesus is through the sacrament of reconciliation, or more commonly what is called confession, And so I wanted to say to you today about 3 different obstacles or to coming home. Things which stop people from going to confession, things which stop people from putting themselves right with God and with the church and with themselves. So I got 3 points, and I say they're probably, it's not exhaustible, it's not exhausting, an exhaustive selection of points, but just 3 points that I want to bring to you, which to help you think about it, And the first obstacle, I would say, that people oftentimes use as the reason why they don't go to confession, and the first thing is because they say, well, it's been a long time, and I would need at least 3 hours, or even longer, to make my confession, and I can't remember everything. So it's been too long. Too much has happened, and I can't remember it all. So that's sorry, as you can hear, there's Jonah's bark. It's on camera for you all now. It's the telephone technicians going by. Jonah, okay, you're going to let me talk now? Yes? Is you're going to stop now? Yes? Good boy. Good boy. I guess not. So people, who have not been to confession for a long, long time, they've gotten out of the habit of it, and they've kind of like a lost touch maybe with themselves or with their life. But they know in some ways that if they really were to make a very thorough confession, they could be there all day, And I just want to say to that really that I understand that, but it should never be a reason for you not to. And I say that to you because when we come before God in confession, when we come before the priest, nobody's expecting you to come in with a list with dates and times and very specific details. If you have some details you want to enumerate, that's fine. But what's important about coming to confession is that you have your heart in the right place. Is that, you recognize in some ways that you've wandered from God, and you just have a desire to be with God and to be reconciled. And from there, you see, you can go about, mentioning, in non-specific terms, some of the areas which you struggle with and you still struggle with. So you can say, since the last time I was here, I've been, very unpleasant, and I've hurt a lot of people, and I can't remember how many people I've hurt, but I know that I've hurt them, or it's, I can't remember the last time I went to Mass, but I know that I've not been. Do you see what I'm saying? So nobody's expecting you, and especially God is not expecting you, to sit down and sort of say, well, on the 20th of March, 1963, this person walked in front of me and I got really mad. Well, God that's not the deal here, It's about us coming before God, contrite. And I say that to you today. I say it as my personal reflection on some of the reasons why people don't come, and there are many reasons why. But don't let that become, I would say, an excuse. Don't let it become an excuse for not coming. I can see it as an obstacle, and people would feel, well, I've done so much wrong. There's no way I could possibly remember it all, And God knows it all anyway. God sees into the heart, and that's where Jesus is. Okay, and that's where He's looking for a heart that wants to change. Okay, so. That's my first comment for today on obstacle number 1. My second obstacle is, and earlier I did this kind of talk in Spanish, and I couldn't remember the third one, so I'm hoping I remember the 3 obstacles, straight off right now. The second one is, people will say, well, I don't go to confession. I'm not interested in the sacrament of reconciliation because, I've thought about it and I've looked at it, and I don't think I've got any sins to confess. I just don't think there's any. I just don't think there's. Well, Jonah's got something to say about that, haven't you? Yes. Oh, I'm sorry about this, by the way. I don't want this to become. Anyway, this is just me reaching out to you today. So the second point was, people sort of say, well, I don't think I've got anything to confess. There's no sin there. So why go? And I always sort of say, I said, well, if you take time, if you sit down in prayer, and if you open up the Gospels and you look at the Gospels, I think you'll soon become aware of in some ways where you've fallen short. When you look at just how good Jesus is, and how everything he's done and does is for love of each one of us, you can pretty soon work out that there's something in your life which isn't like that, in the smallest way, and also, just as my personal opinion, I think if we're at that stage, this is just my opinion, I think if we get to that stage whereby we think we have no sins, to me it would be a sign that we haven't been praying properly or at all. And I think that in and of itself is a good reason to go to confession. Because I think if we put ourselves in front of someone who is so good and so loving and so compassionate, we realize, that before God, we're very lacking and very needy too. So don't let that become an excuse. If you think that you don't have any sin, make a prayer. Say, please, Jesus, show me, in what way that I've failed you and what way I failed others, and God answers prayers. So, Don't let it become an excuse to keep you from coming to confession. Okay, don't let that obstacle become the excuse. You know. And my third point really today about the sacrament of reconciliation, about confession. Um, I've actually forgotten it again now. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Uh, what? No, I don't think that was the third point. I'm trying to think what that. I've had to remind it myself. Oh yeah. I know exactly what it is. I'm sorry, this is a bit chaotic today, isn't it? Really. My third point, the third obstacle is okay. When people say, I don't need to go to confession because I can sit in my room and I can tell God that I'm sorry and He will forgive me. And my answer to that is, you're absolutely right. Completely right. You're completely right. We can all say sorry from our heart, and God knows that, and God forgives us. In fact, the primary sacrament of forgiveness in the Catholic Church is the Eucharist. Do this, I did this for the forgiveness of sins. We can go to Mass, and during the penitential rite, we say, "I'm sorry," and God forgives our sins. However, and my point is this: our church is sacramental. It's a sacrament. In other words, Jesus comes to us specifically for the purpose of being with us and encountering us. When we go with the priest for individual confession, in the words of absolution, we are absolved. In other words, we are forgiven. The slate, if you like, is wiped clean. Okay, we begin again. But then, you see, we also get the grace from God, to not sin again, to get holier, to get stronger, and to not fall into the same trap. You don't get that when it's just, saying sorry. But through the ministry of the church, the grace of God is at work. And first of all, you're given the grace, if you like, to be healed, because, when we commit sins, when we do things wrong, we hurt other people, and we also hurt ourselves, and so we need to be healed. So the grace which comes from the sacrament heals us, and also, it's a grace which makes us stronger, so as not to sin again. In other words, to make us that much bit holier than we were before. You see, that's what we believe, that the grace of God is at work through those sacraments. And, every time you go to confession, have individual confession, you leave that space changed, if only in a small way. And every time you go, you change a bit more. You come a little bit holier. And I've seen that in other people, and I've seen it in my own life, really, how it's kind of made me more aware and enabled me to move along in a way, in a way which, just by sitting in my room saying sorry, wouldn't bring the same kind of blessing. So that's the third obstacle there. So don't let that be an excuse not to come home. Don't let that become an excuse not to be reconciled. Don't let that become an excuse not to receive the healing you need and the grace that you need to become a holy person, a holy church. Okay. So there we are. They're my 3 points. I probably waffled on a bit long. I was slightly distracted because of Jonah's barking. I'm sorry about that, But I will be talking to you again next week about some of the aspect of Lent. In the meantime, go think about The Prodigal Son, Henry Nouwen's book. It's a good one. Or just pick up the Bible and look at the parable of the prodigal son, you know, and, you know, see, where am I in all of this? Where am I with God? And where am I with myself? You know, God wants to not just only wipe the slate clean, you know, He wants to help us to write a new narrative for ourselves. You know, that's what these sacraments are for, to help us to write a new narrative for our life. And if you haven't had the chance so far, here at Church of the Holy Spirit, we're selling our Lenten masks, purple, especially for you, to make a special point during, make a mark on your apparel this Lent with a purple mask, and also to support your parish. They're $10 each. You can buy them in the office, or you can buy them after Mass this coming weekend. Okay? So for now, it's goodbye from me, and bye-bye. Be joyful. Keep the faith. See you soon. Thanks.